Back to another episode of the Casey Campbell Podcast. Casey Campbell with you, of course. Pleased to be joined by Trent Hindman, one of the drivers of the number 77 Porsche for Wright Motorsports with Volt Racing. How's it going, Trent?
It's all right. It's all right so far. I think anybody who's maybe looked at timesheets from this row before the Daytona 24 test, maybe seeing the Porsches not doing super hot. We're doing everything we can collectively as a team, as a manufacturer to find some performance. But luckily, we have another day or two before our Rolex 24 weekend starts, and maybe we'll find a bit of speed.
Yeah. So just kind of talk about just getting you're back in GTD again. So what's it going to be? What's it like being back in the main WeatherTech series again?
It's special. I mean, a year out of the WeatherTech Sports Car Championship puts a lot into perspective in terms of how special of a series it really is, and how it is ultimately. It's the goal, right? It's one of the highest level sports car series in the world, one of the highest level GT3 championships in the world. So to be back in it, it's very special. It's such a strong team, strong group of co-drivers, manufacturer too, with Porsche behind us. It's really really a pleasure. And then, of course, it's the 61st running of the Rolex 24, one of the largest grids that's ever been a part of this race. So happy to be back and excited to be a part of it all, really.
Yeah. I know that qualifying didn't work out as well as you guys wanted, but overall, it's again, as I tell everybody, it's a 24-hour race, and who knows what's going to happen.
It is. It is for sure. You've got a long period of time. The biggest things for us, even if we don't find the performance that we need to really compete on speed, we need to stay mistake free, execute all of our jobs, not just the guys in the car, but the guys on pit lane as best we can. And no penalties, no mistakes. It's a lot easier said than done. I get that, but for sure, the last couple of years, the cars to finish on the podium and fight for the win occasionally weren't the quickest, but they certainly were the most mistake-free, and that's how these long races generally go.
Coming into this race, what do you think about just just this with this new team? I know that a team that you're very familiar with, but what's it kind of like, running this race in the full season again?
Yeah, I mean it's special, right? As we talked about before, it's special to be back on the WeatherTech Championship grid, especially for full time for the full season. It's been almost 3 years since I've last been full time in the series, so it's definitely a pleasure to be back. But it's really special to be making this transition with my co-driver Alan Brynjolfsson. He and I have been together for 5 years, going on six, in terms of teammates, and to see his progression through GS, ultimately becoming champion in the Michelin Pilot Challenge last year, and making this step up to GTD together has been really, really gratifying. So lots to learn. Definitely going to be some challenges along the way, but I think there's no reason why we can't compete for race wins throughout the year.
Just kind of talk about with these cars, and GTD's got the biggest field once again. How are you going to navigate all that through traffic, and plus you got all these GTP cars and everybody else?
Yeah, I mean that's the challenge, and that's kind of the charm of the Rolex 24 at Daytona, but really the IMSA WeatherTech Championship in general is um, multi-class racing, lots of traffic, lots of action constantly going on. You can use it to your advantage, or it can be a massive disadvantage depending on your approach and how aggressive you want to be. So there's certainly always a lot to play for, but you add that multi-class racing function in there as a variable, and it just kind of blows the roof off it, to be honest with you. But again, these long distance races, when we're at Daytona or even Sebring for the 12-hour, it's all about staying mistake free, staying clear of trouble. Trouble's certainly an easy thing to find here around Daytona with so many cars and so many different categories. So I think everybody's going to be, or at least I'd hope everybody would have the same approach, at least for the first half of the race when there's not a whole lot to play for, but to stay consistent, stay clean.
For sure. Um, Yeah, you've done this race a couple times. What's it just like to run this race? What's harder, being in the car or being out of the car?
I'm of the firm belief that anytime I've ever taken a nap during this 24-hour, the bad stuff always comes when I'm asleep. So the plan is to not sleep, be present for the whole time, be engaged. Hopefully that brings a bit of luck our side. But to answer your question there, yeah, I think the most stress is when you're out of the car. It's easy when it's all in your control and in your hands, but to hand it off to your co-drivers, it's a tough thing to do. That's why I'm so lucky to have co-drivers like Alan and Kevin and Max with us for this race. It's all my trust, all my faith is in them, and I don't think there's really a better team, at least on the GTD grid, uh, than I think those three guys right there. I'm very lucky to have.
Yeah. Just with all these cars out there, it's going to be tough. But what's the toughest part about driving this race?
It's that multi-class racing function that's really where it gets difficult, and it's always sort of a push and pull. The more aggressive you get with the faster category cars, generally the more time you're going to lose. You learn to work with them and settle into a rhythm and keep it smooth, and generally the elapsed time over the course of a stint is going to be quite a bit quicker. So finding that balance and that rhythm is generally very difficult, but if you can find it, it could be a huge benefit. So that's I think every team's going to have a bit of a different approach. I think every driver might end up having a bit of a different approach, but everybody here at Wright Motorsports tends to share the same thought. So that's the goal. That's the plan. Just be as smooth as we can, especially in that multi-class environment.
Yeah. And then finally, just what's it going to take to win the Rolex 24? You think?
Well, you ask any Porsche team what it's going to take right now to win the Rolex 24, they're going to say about 10 miles an hour of straight line speed. Little some strange decisions from IMSA right now. I do understand it to some extent, but I also would like to see a little bit more proactivity on their side. And not penalize Porsche so hard. But hey, if this is the box that we're going to run in, it is what it is. The 77 team, the Volt Racing team, with Wright Motorsports, we're in full season. So even if we're not necessarily in contention to win from a speed perspective, which is certainly right now, that's what it's looking like. We're still going to run. We're still going to do the best we can because there's a entire championship season on the line here for us. So yeah, it'd be hard to wrap our heads around that exact scenario, but certainly hoping some changes come, and we're pushing hard for it collectively as a group with Porsche.
All right. Well, Trent Hindman, thank you so much for coming on and talking with us, and best of luck at the Rolex 24 Daytona. And we'll catch up with you throughout the year.
Awesome. Thanks for having me, Casey. Appreciate it.